Hello everyone, we are trying a new filming setup. I recently got all of my books in one place, so usually there's a mirror behind me, but I thought that would be distracting, so I moved it. But now I feel like this is weird, so let me know what you guys think of this. I know the lighting is kind of weird, we're rolling with it, but today I am going to be sharing with you my mid-year book freakout tag, so let's just jump right into the questions. Question number 1 is, what is the best book that you have read so far this year? And there's like no doubt about it, like the book that I have absolutely loved, it's like one of my new favorites of all time, is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This book is so beautiful. I feel like it has something for everyone. It's like a murder mystery, there's also nature, it's beautifully written, there's a love story, adventure, like it's just such a good book. And I had really not known anything about this. I just like had heard a lot of good things, but I didn't really know what it was about until I read it, and I'm so glad I did. I listened to the audiobook, which was really good, and then I ended up buying a physical copy, and I do want to annotate this. It's just so good. My mom is reading it right now and she's loving it, so it's really good and I highly recommend it. Question number 2 is, what is the best sequel that you've read this year? And for me, that has been The Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson. Now, I never read this series and I decided to just binge the whole thing. I'm currently on the 3rd book, but this one so far has been my favorite. I'm like halfway through the 3rd one, but I keep putting it down. I'm just like not into it right now. But I really loved this one. I thought it was much more entertaining than the first one. I still really liked the first book in the series, but this was just way more entertaining, and I really loved the dynamic between all the characters and like the development. It was just really good, and I really liked the series. Question number 3 is, what is a 2020 release that you have not gotten to yet? And for me, I mean, there's a few, but the biggest one I think for me is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I bought this because it was Sarah J. Maas, but after I bought it, I found out it was urban fantasy, which is like really not my jam. So I've been like really intimidated by it and like afraid to pick it up because I'm afraid I'm not gonna like it. So it's just kind of been sitting here, but I really want to, get to it hopefully by the end of the year. Question number 4 is, what is a new release that you're excited for that isn't out yet for the rest of the year, or like for the end of the year? And for me, I have 2. The first one is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I've heard such good things about this book. I've been literally watching her Twitter, like waiting for news on this book ever since she like talked about it like years and years ago. I've been so excited. So I'm really excited that it's finally coming out. And then the second one is A Sky Beyond the Storm, which is the 4th book in the Ember in the Ashes series, which is one of my favorite series of all time. I really want to reread those books this summer just to prepare myself for this release because I'm so excited. I got into this series a little bit late. I didn't actually get into it until the 3rd book came out, and I just binged the whole thing, and it was so good. I've literally been thinking about rereading it since I finished it like 2 summers ago. So I'm really excited for the next book to come out, the finale. I'm probably gonna die, but it's fine. Question number 5 is, what was your biggest disappointment? And for me, that was definitely The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I read The Night Circus like 2 years ago, and I really loved it. I listened to the audiobook at the time, and I had heard such great things about The Starless Sea, and I was so looking forward to it. And I also listened to the audiobook for this, but I did have a physical copy. It's like one of those situations where like I don't know if I read like a different book than everybody else, because I like don't understand how people like this book, because like for me the plot was so confusing. I didn't understand what was happening. I was like far into it. I was like almost 300 pages into this like book, and I just didn't understand what was going on, and it was like so frustrating. Question number 6 is, what was your biggest surprise? And I have 2. That was Elizabeth and Her German Garden, which is a classic, and I absolutely love this. I got this for Christmas last year, and I didn't really know anything about it. I just thought the cover was pretty, and I was like, oh, like a garden, that sounds nice. and I loved this. I read this on my front porch like every morning in like April, and it was like right when spring was happening, and it's just about this woman and like her garden, and it follows her for like a whole year, and it was written in like the late 1800s, I think, and it was like so ahead of its time, very like women centered, like it was just really great. I was very surprised that how much I liked it. And then the second one is This Is What It Feels Like, which was actually a book that I read for the Queer Lit Readathon. This was the group book, and I had never heard anything about it. I just got it off of Book Outlet, and it was so good. Like, this is one of my favorite books of the year, and I had like never even heard of it before then. And if it wasn't on Book Outlet, I would have never picked it up, or I probably wouldn't have even looked into it further. Like, I literally just picked it up blindly. And this is one of my favorite books, like I said, of the year, probably of all time. Like, it was just so good. The representation was great, and I just really loved this. All the characters were so real and interesting. There was perspectives I had never read from before. It was just a great time, and I was so surprised how much I love this. Question number 7 is, who is your new favorite author? And again, I have two. The first being Mary Oliver. I've really gotten into her poetry this year. I have had like a love-hate relationship with her in the past where I read her books, but I don't know, I just like didn't love it, or like wasn't feeling it. And I liked her poems, but I never like connected with them the way I did this year, especially in the spring. I just like loved reading her poems like while I was sitting outside and like appreciating nature, and it was just such a great time. And then the second author that is a new favorite is Case and Calendar. I actually read all of their books this year, as far as I know. I read Hurricane Child, King and the Dragonflies, and Felix Ever After, and I gave them all 5 stars. They're all so good. I think out of all of them, I feel like they're also different, but out of all of them, my favorite is probably King and the Dragonflies. I just really liked the whole dynamic of the friendship, but I also really loved Felix Ever After. It was such a different vibe than his other 2 books, and it was just so good. So I listened to all of those on audiobook, and the audiobook for all of them were superb. So good. So I'm so excited to get physical copies of his books because I don't own any of them. I just borrowed them from the library, but it was so good. So definitely an auto-buy author from this point forward. Question number 8 is, what is a book that made you cry? And I really don't think I have one, like, that I can think of. I mean, I've gotten, like, emotionally, like, excited. So, like, I remember when I was reading, like, a few of these books in some of my vlogs, you saw, like, I was, like, so excited. I was, like, getting, like, teary-eyed. But, like, I didn't ever, like, cry or, like, sob or anything like that. Like, I was just excited to be reading, like, books with representation, and I don't know, I don't have an answer for this question, so moving on. Question number 9 is a book that made you happy, and I have a few. So the first one being This Is What It Feels Like. This book, just the romance in this was so good. It's like one of my favorite couples of all time. It was so cute, and I loved it. All of the romance in this was great. The next one is Late to the Party, which I feel like I've heard nobody talk about this book. This is definitely one of my favorite books of the year. It's so good. It was giving me like Perks of Being a Wallflower vibes, but like not sad. Because you know how like at the end it's all sad. Like, it's not sad. It's like it has that friend group dynamic. It's about self-discovery. It's a little nostalgic, like for high school, and there's great friendships, and it was just such a good book, and no one has talked about this, and I just want everyone to read it because it's so good. The audiobook is great. It's on Scribd. The reading it physically is great. I literally tabbed so much of it. Like, it was just such a good book. So that definitely made me happy. And then the last one is the Henna Wars, which I was again, this is another one that surprised me because I knew I was gonna like this book, but I didn't know how much I was gonna like this book because I knew I've read books like, you know, in this vein before, like When Dimple Met Rishi and like a bunch of other books with characters that like I don't directly relate to, but like it's still romance, and like I love the representation, but like I like those books, but like I said, I never really like related to them on the same level as I would like something else. But this one, I felt like all the characters were relatable. I feel like I learned a lot about these cultures, and like it was just such a good book. I read this book so quickly. I think I read the whole thing in one day, and I absolutely loved it, and I was so surprised about how much I loved it. and it just made me so happy to read it. That's why I read it so quickly, and it was just so good. I have a vlog where I read that. I think there's a vlog for like most of these because I've been a vlogging machine lately. Question number 10 is, what is the most beautiful book that you have bought or received this year? And I had a hard time with this question because like I haven't really been buying a ton of books this year. But I did just buy this book the other day because it was so pretty and like I love the concept of it, and that is Forest Bathing. This is all about the concept of forest bathing, the deceptively simple Japanese practice of spending time in the forest as a way to find peace, rejuvenation, and promote health. And I just really love the cover of this. Like, I don't know how well you can see it, but it has like, it's not like foiling, but it's just like really pretty. And it's very short. I like love little books like this, so I'm really excited to read this, and I just thought it was really cute. And then the last question is, what are some books that you need to get to by the end of the year? And I again struggled with this because of course there are books that I want to read by the end of the year, but I'm not feeling like the urge that I definitely need to get to them by the end of the year. But I still have a few. The first one being Call Down the Hog by Maggie Steve Otter. I'm like so ashamed that I have not read this yet, but I have been rereading The Raven Cycle, which is why I've put this off, because I kind of felt like I didn't really remember, not that I didn't remember The Raven Cycle, but I listened to The Raven Cycle on audio and I'd never actually physically read it, so I wanted to like physically reread and annotate them before I picked this up. So I'm on the last book now, and then I will hopefully get to this by the end of the year and in time for the next book to come out, if it's not out already. I don't think it is, but I've heard good things about this, so I'm excited to read it. I also really want to get to The Fifth Season by M.K. Jemisin. I'm currently reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which is like a gigantic book, and I've been really in the mood for this book, but I don't want to pick this up until I'm done with The Way of Kings, so it's like a struggle, but I'm definitely gonna read this by the end of the year. The next book that I want to get to is The Bear and the Nightingale. I've heard such good things about this series. Sorry, there was like a sticker on the front of this, and I just tried to like get it off. But I got this at the thrift store for 50 cents. You literally can't beat that. So I definitely want to get to this. But I don't know, I have this like thing with this book where I feel like I need to read it during winter, and then like once winter comes around I never feel like picking it up. So I definitely want to get to that in like December. That would be great. And then the last book, which I don't know if it'll happen because there's so many like fantasy books I want to get to, but I've been hearing really great things about this series, and I know the last book is coming out like pretty soon, and that is The Poppy War. I've literally had this book since it came out, and I have not read it just because I've heard, because there's like so many disclaimers about this book, and I didn't want to be like really triggered, so I've been putting it off. But I have so many books, so like you guys don't even get it. I have like not realized how many books I own, which is kind of ridiculous, but because like for a long time I had my I had some of my books at my apartment for school, and I had some of my books in my childhood home, and now that they're all in one place, it's like so overwhelming. Like this is just my fantasy shelf, and there's still like 4 shelves down here that you can't even see, and there's like a million books like on top of these, and then I have a bookshelf over there, and I have a bookshelf behind this, and then I have like the bookshelf that I normally film in front of. So it's just been really overwhelming, and I've kind of been slumpy because I like don't know what I want to read, because I kind of want to read everything, but I also like don't feel like reading anything. So it's just been a struggle. That is it for the mid-year book freakout tag. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, let me know if you like this setup. I still don't know how I feel about it. I feel like I don't really like it because there's like this awkward space here, but let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.